Hello and welcome to the Film Pulse podcast. This is episode number 433. My name's Adam Patterson. With me today, we have Kevin Rakestraw. Hey, Kevin.
Oh, hi.
Staying warm? Staying warm up there?
Oh, yeah.
Nice.
Oh, yeah.
All bundled up?
I got cardigans for every day of the week.
Oh, yeah.
Which, guess what? Not enough cardigans.
Is there ever enough cardigans?
There isn't.
This week on the show, we'll be reviewing Joel Coen's The Tragedy of Macbeth, which is out now in limited release and on Apple TV+. Also be going over some of what we've been watching on the watch list, and this week's new releases in theaters, VOD, and Blu-ray. Thank you so much for joining us this week. Please remember to review us on iTunes if you get a moment. That would be very helpful. Just one bit of housekeeping. New Saved by the 90s is going to be recorded later today, and then I hope to have it up sometime towards the end of the week this week, so stay tuned for that. We're doing Y2K.
Oh, yeah.
That's our theme, is Y2K. Going to be discussing that. We watched some Y2K preparedness videos. It was a good time.
Nice.
Yeah, so stay tuned for that. I know that I announced a few weeks ago that I'd be moving that feed over and just doing everything on one feed, but I kind of decided to hold off on that for now just because it's a kind of a hassle, and it's going to be require too much, I think, to move everything over. So for now, everything's going to be separate. Let's go ahead and jump into The Tragedy of Macbeth. I have a synopsis here if you're not familiar with Macbeth. A Scottish lord becomes convinced by a trio of witches that he will become the next king of Scotland, and his ambitious wife supports him in his plans of seizing power. Kevin, we'll start with you. What were your initial impressions of The Tragedy of Macbeth?
Overall, I liked this. I enjoyed this, especially because of it being Macbeth. When it comes to film adaptations of Macbeth, for me personally, I've seen this story so many times that the story doesn't really concern me much at all at this point. Like, it's always the same.
Right. Yeah.
Honestly, So really what it comes down to is what is being done visually. And I gotta say, I like the visuals of this movie. Because my brain just kind of goes to autopilot when it comes to, the dialogue and the story, the narrative and everything. Because I know what's coming. I know what's happening. Well-worn territory for me. So it ultimately comes down to visuals. And man, there's some really solid visuals in here. Just the overall aesthetic of this movie. It hooked me.
Here's the thing. I agree that the visuals are strong in this. The performances are strong. But I went into this movie kind of already knowing that was going to be the case. So there weren't any surprises for me in this movie. Everything was exactly how I expected it to be. I was like, okay, well, I suspect that they're going to be, doing the iambic pentameter, which I hate, by the way. I just can't deal with it. I knew that we were going to see some really incredible performances from Denzel Washington and Frances McDormand, and we got that. And I knew that the black and white was going to be really nice. I knew that the cinematography was going to be some next level stuff. At least I had a good feeling. And all of those expectations were met. My problem is that I just didn't feel like there was anything for me to grab onto here. I didn't think that there was anything different or new or anything that really kind of perked me up that was beyond my expectations or even just diverted them in any way, good or bad. For me, it was just so middle of the road. I feel like if you're going through an Oscar bait checklist, this is probably hits every single check mark almost, just because it's just so, I don't know. I feel like maybe in a lot of ways this movie plays it too safe or something. I agree with you. I do agree with you that the visuals are great and everything. I actually thought that some of the visuals were pretty bland. Not necessarily the cinematography itself. I mean, I particularly liked the black and white, and I liked a lot of the lighting. I thought was just incredible. But like the sets themselves, a lot of times felt very stagey to me. Like
yes,
and
they're very stagey and very Spartan.
yeah, and like very minimal. Like there's a lot of just everything in this movie is like very minimal. Which is fine if you're into that kind of thing. For me, I felt like the minimal set dressing and the minimal set dressing mixed with the dialogue, mixed with the story that I've encountered a million times over, made for a somewhat kind of banal viewing experience for me. So
I can definitely see that. If people have that criticism, I can definitely see where they're coming from and agree with them for the most part. Because I do kind of feel that way in the same way. I think the visuals for me did enough to keep me hooked throughout, and the fact that this movie doesn't really it's not drawn out, which is nice. It's brisk.
Yeah, I was concerned about that. I was like, oh god, if this is like 2.5 hours long, I'm gonna lose it. I'm gonna lose my shit if this is like 2.5 hours long. But it's like it's less than 2 hours, and yeah, it doesn't. I feel like it doesn't overstay its welcome. It does a good job of adapting the story. There are certain aspects of it that I liked. I noticed that on Letterboxd, the one of the main things that people seem to be highlighting is are the witches, and I did like what they did there. However, just in like briefly skimming over what people were saying on Letterboxd as I was watching this, I was kind of amped up for the witches because it seemed like everybody was kind of really, really bumping them, and so I was expecting something crazy. And so I was a little bit let down with how like kind of normal they were, but I did like the beginning part where she's like contorting on the battlefield and all of that stuff. Like that was awesome.
I think that's where this movie really excels in terms of visuals. The two instances of the weird sisters appearing, the visuals are just incredible.
Yeah.
What they do. There's a lot of creativity. And I think that's really the moments in this movie where Coen kind of takes this approach of like showing some creativity, where everything else, like you said, some of this is bland. I mean, yes, the black and white is phenomenal, especially if you're doing black and white and you're playing with the lighting and the shadows and kind of going with that like German expressionism approach and using kind of other elements of like silent movie era, like with deep angles and stuff like that. But some of it does feel kind of bland and just, because some of these sets are just so sparse.
Yeah, I mean, like I don't know how many scenes take place in that one hallway. That's like like they're just it's like a but also I was thinking about this. In most of these movies, every time you see a movie that takes place in like a castle or a kingdom, everything is so like dirty and like falling apart and just like worn. And it got me thinking as I was watching this, like at one point that stuff was new, right? So maybe some of these like castles and kingdoms and stuff did look like this at one point, where it was like it's fresh and clean and like pristine, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's just interesting that they didn't decorate at all.
No, yeah. That I kind of have a hard time believing, but
I guess that was probably nice for the set decorators.
Yeah, it's
not having a whole lot to do.
Very minimal. Yeah, it definitely has a theater vibe to it. It feels very much like a stage set.
The only other thing I would say that I was slightly disappointed in is this movie, in terms of the narrative and especially what happens to Macbeth, Lady Macbeth. It it seems like he held back a little bit. Like I didn't see, or it didn't feel like a complete descent into madness
No.
that I usually see. Like I'm thinking like Kurtzel's Macbeth from 2015 with Fassbender, which I think is better than this movie. Not to compare the two, but if I had to, I like that one more than this. But I think that's the thing, is that it comes down to visuals again for me. That's what stuck with me enough to see it through. You know, it held my interest the whole way through.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, I was kind of expecting to be completely wowed and bowled over, and I don't think I was. There was moments where I was like, oh, okay, you know, there's flashes of brilliance,
Mm-hmm.
but there was also some lulls in there.
Yeah. For me, it's just really, I'm just not a Shakespeare kind of guy. Like, I just don't. I just feel like I'm done. I think like high school or maybe even middle school, whenever we dove into Shakespeare, I feel like that just kind of ruined me on it, when we would like do these deep dives into Macbeth or any of the other plays, and like analyze every line and like learn all about each one. Like, that just, I don't know. I feel like that just kind of ruined me on
Oh,
Shakespeare.
yeah. And I think that's a big thing for me too, which I've talked about before. But when they do like, you know, straight lifting of
Mm-hmm.
the Shakespearean text, none of those words sound like words to me.
It's
And
just
even them to get like, it's just ambient noise.
gobbledygook.
I
Yeah.
I like it, it sound to me when even what like Denzel Washington is reciting his lines, you know, Brendan Gleeson, whoever it is, Francis McDormand. Like honestly, I just hear a box fan.
It is.
That's kind of what it is to me.
Yeah, it's interesting because like, you know what they're saying, but at the same time, it's like the way that the dialogue is presented, it really does just go in one ear and out the other. It's pretty wild.
Yeah, which that is just a complete personal thing, but it is very bizarre to me that it's just I just hear like a low steady hum. It's just white noise to me.
I think a lot of people feel that way. I mean, I certainly do as well. This movie also made me come to the realization that I'll be dealing with Shakespeare for the rest of my life. Like, I will never be able to avoid Shakespeare. Like, this is not the last time I've seen Macbeth. And it's like, it's kind of depressing for me to think that like I'm probably going to have to deal with Shakespeare again in the near future. Like, I will just always have to deal with this fucking guy.
Which I don't think would be bad if, you know, we got some, you know, some variety, some other plays. But
Yeah, I
it
mean,
always seems like people want to do Macbeth. And it's like, all right, man, this is how many times now?
yeah, I mean, all of his stuff has really just been done so much. But and look, I understand like his influence, Shakespeare's influence goes far and wide. Like, I don't even think it's like we can't even perceive how much influence he had on all
Yeah.
all of art. Like, the dude is prolific. I mean, maybe the most prolific. And I completely recognize that, but at the same time, I'm just sick and tired of Macbeth, Hamlet, fucking Romeo and Juliet. Like, I'm just done with those stories.
Yeah, I hear you.
Now, but of course, like, I understand that there's going to be a lot of. I mean, there's still like a lot of movies that come out that like they're Macbeth, but they're not Macbeth. You know, like, they're taking the story of Macbeth and twisting it and making it something
Yeah.
new.
Which
And
those to me are interesting when and that's the thing when it comes down for me. If you're doing Macbeth, there's got to be some creativity. Either you're going to play around with the setting, the characters themselves, you know, it's something where you're going to change it, but still essentially keep the core there. Going into this, I knew that they're not doing that, you know, based off of the trailer. They're doing a straight adaptation of it. So for me, it's like, okay, if you're not doing anything in terms of the narrative or the dialogue, characters, setting, on any of that stuff, you're keeping that all basic and true to the original. You got to do something visually, and thank God they at least did that, Because if you don't do that, it's just like, what the hell's the point? Why make, you know?
I mean, movies like this they completely are dependent on the visuals and the performances. And yeah, both of those are very good in this. And I think, like I think that is enough for a lot of people to give this a recommendation. But just for me, it just wasn't quite enough. So unfortunately, I just was not too into Macbeth. It was exactly what I thought it would be. And I don't know. I guess I found that to be disappointing. To be clear, though, there were a number of sequences that did perk me up, and I was like, oh, wow, like that looks phenomenal. So it's not like it's a bad movie or anything like that. It's not a bad adaptation. I think that now it's been many years since I actually read Macbeth, but it seems like Joel Coen did a really good job of adapting the story into this. It's not a straight it's not 100%, but which I think is good. But I think he did a good job adapting it, and I think it's interesting that this is the first Joel Coen, single, no Ethan.
Yeah.
So that's kind of interesting.
Ethan was just like, why? There's already like 89 Macbeths. Why?
I did see a headline that said like
my own
it said something about like why Joel Coen couldn't direct Macbeth with his brother or something like that. He said like he couldn't do it with his. I don't know what. I didn't read it because I don't really care too much, but that would be kind of interesting if Ethan Coen went off and did his own Shakespeare adaptation. Like
that would be fun if they both did their
or
own.
Something.
It'd be even better if they both did their own Macbeths.
they both
Macbeth to see who came out.
That would be kind of funny if they each did Macbeth, and it was like a contest between the two of them.
Yes, and that would be interesting to see and open on the same weekend. See what happens.
just see. Yeah, that would have been. I think
the winner gets to continue in Hollywood. The other one has to retire.
Leave the industry. Yeah, those are some heavy stakes. All right.
Yeah, let's start putting some stakes to the Shakespeare adaptations.
Yeah.
If they turn out poor, you don't get to work ever again.
Yep.
Maybe that'll stop.
One other thing before we give this a score, I'll say that I like the poster a lot. It's a great poster, and the title cards are great too.
Oh yeah.
The title treatment,
and it's just awesome. to hop on what every single person has ever said on Letterboxd and Twitter. Catherine Hunter as the Weird Sisters are definitely the highlight of this movie.
Oh yeah,
everything with the Weird Sisters is great.
Yep. All right, let's go ahead and give it a score. This is really hard for me because on one hand, you do have those amazing black and white visuals and really incredible performances, but at the same time, I got to go with my gut, and my gut says that this is one that I will quickly forget and never revisit. So I think I'm going to have to give it a 5.
Wow. Wowzers. I give it a 7.5.
There you go. Tragedy of Macbeth is available on Apple TV Plus right now, so you can check it out on there. Let's move on and talk about some of what we're watching. Why don't you start us off, because I don't have my list pulled up.
Okay, well, I'll start us off with I watched another Samuel Fuller movie, perhaps one of his most well-known films. That's Pickup on South Street from 1953. This is available on the Criterion channel. So this is Skip McCoy, played by Richard Widmark. He's a pickpocket, and he inadvertently steals some government secrets from a woman's purse on the train. The woman's played by Jean Peters, and it was stolen by the commies, and it's government secrets. So the government is now after him, but he doesn't know what the hell he has. That's his job. He's a pickpocket. That's what he does. So now everyone's using their resources, police department, the government, trying to catch this low-level pickpocket guy. And in order to find him, sniff him out, because time is of the essence, they bring in Thelma Ritter as a character named Mo. She's an older lady. She's an entrepreneur. She sells ties. She's a hustler, and she knows like the modus operandi of every single pickpocket in the city. So, she makes some money. They have to tell her like what the guy did. What did he use a newspaper? What hand did he hold it in? What did he do? This and that. And she's able to tell them who the pickpocket is because she just knows all this stuff. She gives a phenomenal performance. Pretty much everyone does, but her performance in particular, her character and the character arc is it's really incredibly tragic in this movie. But I mean, everything about this is this movie's firing on all cylinders. It just like it looks phenomenal. The pace is fantastic. All the performances are great. It's just oh man, this sucker. Whew, this is a good one. It's so damn good.
The slapper, the slaps.
Oh man, if I was one to use that as a descriptor, but I can't because I'm almost 40. I would say that.
I don't think I've ever used that as a descriptor, actually.
No, you'll never hear me use that or say something's lit.
No,
I think at a certain point, you're just like when new words come out.
Yeah, you're just exempt.
I'm not
like you don't.
You can't. It sounds so terrible.
Yeah. Yep. All right. I saw Cliff Walkers. This came out this past year, and it's directed by Zhang Yimou. This is the guy who did Hero and House of Flying Daggers, Shadow, and The Great Wall. So pretty prolific Chinese director. And this is a kind of a espionage thriller where you have this it takes place in the 1930s, and it's about a team of secret agents basically that are trying to carry out this mission. So they go to Russia. They get trained as like these special forces agents, and then they have to infiltrate this Japanese prison basically. And the whole movie is just them trying to carry out this mission. And it turns out that there was an imposter among them, and you have double agents, triple agents in this. Mm-hmm. There's a triple agent, and it's just full of twists and turns. Nobody can trust anybody. People are getting killed. People are getting ratted out. Not a lot of action in this, but when it does hit, it's pretty fun. It's way more subdued than something like Hero or House of Flying Daggers. There's no like crazy outlandish, wire work or anything like that. It's very grounded. But I had a really good time with this. I like espionage movies that have lots of twists and turns and double agents and stuff like that. And there's plenty of that in this. Like, it's almost hard. Like, at the beginning, it's hard to tell what is even going on because everybody dresses the same. So all of the agents, like men, women, everybody on every side, they all dress in like the 30s attire. So they all have black trench coats and fedoras. And you have no idea like who's working with who and what teams there are, because there's like multiple teams. And there's this really great scene that takes place on a train, and you're just like, what the fuck is going on? Like, wait, they're writing like secret messages, and like those messages are getting erased and replaced with false messages. And it's just, it's really good. I enjoyed it a lot. Cliff Walkers is the name.
Looking forward to that one.
Yeah, this was on Raul's list.
Yes, that's right. I knew it was on someone's list.
Yeah, this was on his list, and I think it was like very high up. Was it number one? It might have been number one on his list.
Might have been.
It was number one. Yeah.
There you go. Well, I finally got around to watching a classic, and that's Planet of the Apes, the original, 1968.
Mm.
Apparently all the Planet of the Apes movies are on HBO Max. So finally got around. I'm gonna do this series
Oh
of
wow.
films. So I started with the first one, which is it's kind of tough because even though I haven't seen it, I know it.
Right. Yeah,
You know
it's
what I
one of
mean? Like
those.
it's yeah. I
You
know
know
the
the
twist.
twist and all that. Yeah.
I know most of the dialogue. Much of it has been sampled in hip hop, and so I pretty much know all of this. But some things that I didn't realize. One is their crash landing sequence of them coming, crash landing on this planet, and they don't know what planet it is. But just the sequence of that is really phenomenal. The way that it's shot, and it's really kind of trippy and really impressive, kind of experimental in a way. This crash landing and everything, and then them escaping from their ship on this new planet. All of the terrain, like the landscape shots and everything, they're incredible. Like the scope of it is just it's massive. So a lot of that it was kind of surprising. I was pretty well surprised too, just by like the world building and the environment itself. Of like when they finally get to the apes and like their settlement, their community and the buildings and everything. And it's just really, I think, top notch world building going on. The One of the other things that I didn't quite know is that, uh, and I kind of get it. I realize what they're going for here, but the astronauts that are on this mission are like they did not send their best and their brightest, especially Charlton Heston, who makes no sense whatsoever as like the lead. Like he has no curiosity whatsoever. Like he's not a man of science. Like he's just a dude that smokes cigars. Like they let him take cigars. He's just smoking them inside the spaceship, which seems like you wouldn't do that, but whatever. It's the '60s. And it's kind of funny, but you get what they're going for because man is supposed to be. It's kind of he's kind of the stand-in for the entire human race and how bland they are. It's just kind of funny to me because they land in water, this huge wasteland desert, and these three guys, just fucking dumb as rocks, are like, let's not follow the water. Any explorer will tell you follow the water. That's where you're going to find life.
Of
Let's
course.
follow the river out. Plus, you're by water. Good, right? No, they immediately trek into the barren wasteland desert where nothing exists whatsoever. And then, of course, they're like, oh, we only have this 8-ounce thing of water. Oh, man, what are we going to do? And it's like, you fucking idiots.
Fucking morons. Get with the
Jesus
program.
Christ.
Well, I'll be interested to see. I've never seen any of the sequels. I only saw the first, just the original. So I'll be interested to see like where this journey takes you.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited because I was kind of surprised at like how much I enjoyed this movie, especially like the craft of it. I was kind of taken surprised by that.
I mean, a lot of people like the sequels and stuff too, but I mean, I don't know how many there. How many of them are there? There's
It's too
one,
many.
two,
I know
three,
that.
four, five.
Oh man.
Looks like there's five, maybe five. And then there's
Yeah.
the 2001 one with Mark Wahlberg, and then
Yeah, I'm
three
not
of
gonna
the
do that
newer
one.
ones.
I'm not doing the Wahlberg one.
No, that's garbage.
I'll skip to the other one
The new ones are
because
good.
isn't yeah, that's what I thought. I'll do those.
Yeah, the new ones are actually quite good. I really like those. I think you'll like those. All right, let's see. I saw a movie called Meander. This is it's a French film. It's directed by Matthew Turi. Premise of this one is a woman is she wakes up in what is essentially like a ventilation shaft, and she's not exactly sure how she got there. She ended up getting a lift from a guy against her better judgment, and the guy attacked her, and she wakes up and she's in this tube, and She starts crawling around trying to figure out what's going on, and guess what? Oh, there's traps in the tube. So what you have here is sort of like a Cube. It's similar to Cube, but it's also similar to like other kind of containment thrillers, where she needs to like decipher clues and figure out like, and she has to survive the traps. But then guess what? She finds that there's like other people in the tube, and like some of them they're not like they're kind of human, but they're almost like zombies. They're like really messed up. And then there's like some really crazy shit that happens later on that I won't spoil, but it doesn't really lean into the craziness enough. Like, it gets weird, but I feel like it's not weird enough to like justify the where it goes. Some of the traps are, I mean, the traps are cool. There's a lot of, not a lot of gore, but there's some gore in it that's pretty well crafted. It's okay. I didn't think it was horrible or anything like that. It does have a very distinct sense of like claustrophobia, though. Like, I'm not a claustrophobic person. Like, I don't get claustrophobia. However, if I could imagine if you're someone who is claustrophobic, that this movie would be triggering in that regard, because every scene is like just so tight. And like some of the some of the parts of the tube, she has to go underwater. So like, not only is she cramped into this tiny little tube, but in certain parts of it, she has to go underwater in the tube.
No.
So yeah, for anybody who does not like tight spaces, I think that this one is going to be a pretty rough watch, which is crazy, because like I've seen movies that, you know, what was the one with Ryan Reynolds where he's buried? Yeah. Like, this is more claustrophobic than Buried, in my opinion.
Wow.
Like, it's just everything in this is like just so tight. But yeah, it's interesting. Like, where it goes, I'm not sure I'm completely on board, but let's just say it takes a bit of a supernatural type of twist. So yeah, very strange. Anyway, that's Meander. That is on Amazon Prime, so you can check it out on there.
Oh, I have one that I saw on Amazon Prime too, and I know you saw it, and that's Watch Out, We're Mad.
Watch Out, We're Mad.
Bud Spencer and Terrence Hill, which I have a sneaking suspicion I'm going to be watching a lot more Bud Spencer's and Terrence Hill movies this year.
Yeah, can I just quickly, before you get into this, just tell you about, like, or tell the audience about how I happened upon these. So I was just perusing, I guess it was, I can't remember if it was Steam or the Epic Game Store, one of those, you know, game marketplaces. And I was just perusing, you know, I was just seeing what was out there. And I happened upon this game called, I already forgot the name of it. It's called Slaps and Beans, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And I watched like the trailer, and I was like, oh man, this looks really fun. It's like a classic kind of 16-bit beat 'em up. And it was like, oh, starring Terrence Hill and Bud Spencer. And I just thought that I didn't really realize that they were actually real people. And so I got the game and I was playing it, and I was like, man, this game feels so like, it feels like this is referencing something. So I looked it up, and sure enough, like Terrence Hill and Bud Spencer are these two like uber famous Italian actors in the 70s and 80s. And they have a huge filmography. Like, they made so many movies together. I mean, this is like the Italian Laurel and Hardy or something. And for some reason, like, I just never heard of these guys. I mean, clearly they never were huge in the US, but they were like really popular in Italy, at least. And
I think they were super huge in Budapest, I think, because there's like a Bud Spencer. I think it's Budapest. They have a Bud Spencer like statue.
Like a statue?
Of him. Yeah. Because that's how beloved he is.
So I was like, oh man, like the game was so much fun, and it was like just so goofy. And it had this like really great like 70s vibe to it that I just found to be so refreshing in a video game. Like it had the kind of vibe that I just hadn't really encountered before. So I loved the game, and I looked into Terrence Hill and Bud Spencer, and sure enough, their movie Watch Out We're Mad from 1974 was on Amazon Prime. So I gave it a watch and like immediately just loved every second of it. And I contacted you right away, and I was like, you gotta check these guys' movies out because it's right up our alley.
Oh, and you are 100% correct, because this is something that you just don't get anymore.
No, you don't.
And the thing is, what I love about this is that it's a super simple film. It's just based around these two guys who kind of don't get along, but they kind of reluctantly get along. They're two like rally car racers. They win a dune buggy because they tie in this race. They win a dune buggy, so they're trying to figure out, who gets the dune buggy. Got to come up with something else. Maybe eat hot dogs and drink beer. First one to stop loses the dune buggy. But they're doing this at an amusement park. The gangsters come and just want to splat cars, and I love their justification for it because they just gotta splat the car.
Gotta splat the car. Yeah, I love that one scene where he's like, I gotta splat your car.
Yeah. Splat. And he's like, I gotta, I'm a gangster. This is what I do. I was asked to splat cars. I'm gonna splat your car. So they get their buggies splatted, and they decide to go to the head gangster and say, hey, you got until Saturday to give us a new dune buggy. It's got to be red with a yellow tarp. We need a dune buggy. And of course the gangster's like, no, I'm not giving you that. So the rest of this movie essentially is just them being like, okay, we got to prove to them that like we mean business. So it's just them slapping and punching the shit out of people. To be like, we're serious, give us a dune buggy. And of course, the gangster that is like a huge baby, he's a man baby. He wears pajamas and everything. And his sidekick is Dr. Loomis.
Mm-hmm.
And they end up spending it's probably 20 times the amount that they would spend on a dune buggy in order to try and not give these guys a dune buggy.
Yeah.
And it's just the choreography is incredible. I was really surprised by that, especially the set pieces. There's the deadpan humor, there's the physical comedy, there's actually good choreography in the fight sequences. They do a lot of different stuff. Bud Spencer is hilarious because he's just this mountain of a man.
Yeah, just bonking, head bonking. I love the sound effects, man. Like the sound effects when he does the move where he just rams the top of their head. So he's just punching the top of people's heads. And I love every slap that he does. He does this open palm slap, and it just sends people flying every time.
Yeah. And I just love the set pieces of this too, especially the end. Now, I think the gym fight is one of the coolest things I've ever seen.
I love the gym
fight.
Mix.
It's a great mix of choreography and comedy and just using the surroundings and everything. But the end set piece is just just a room full of balloons. Let's fight.
My god, yeah.
Why not?
I loved all the set pieces in this. The chorus the chorus scene.
Yes.
I feel like this movie came out in 1974, and I just feel like the comedy was. I don't know if maybe this was really influential for other filmmakers, or if this was just way ahead of its time. But I just feel like it's rare that you can watch a comedy, especially a foreign language comedy. Now, the version that's on Prime is dubbed. I don't know if there's actually. I don't know if you can find these in the original language or not, but anyway, my point was it's hard to find comedies that are old and foreign to be funny in a contemporary time. There's just there's things that different countries have different styles of comedy, different tastes of comedy, and it doesn't always translate well. And older movies Not all. I'm not like trying to generalize or anything, but a lot of older comedies just don't have the same, punch that comedies now have, and it's like it's an evolving thing. Comedy is an evolving thing, and this movie is genuinely funny, and I don't know. I just had a blast with it. I also saw Double Trouble, but I'm not going to talk about it this week. I think maybe because I know that you're probably going to catch up with that one, so we'll talk about it together.
Oh yeah, I know. I'm very excited.
Yeah, I mean this year,
watch as many of these as I can.
Yeah, this year I think is going to be the year that like my year-end letterbox list for 2022 is going to be like most watched actor is going to be Terrence Hill and Bud Spencer, I think.
Oh, without a doubt.
Because I'm gonna go in hard on these guys because their stuff is just so good. It's just so good, and I can't believe that I'm just now discovering them.
I know,
because they seem like they're huge. Like they seem like they're really famous, and I'm just now finding out about it. Thanks to that video game, which I highly recommend everybody picking up because it's pretty cheap, and if you're looking for a great 2D beat 'em up that has really great animation and lots of fun mini games and stuff, check it out. And apparently they're making a sequel, so I'm really excited about that.
Nice.
There's nothing else that I really wanted to go over.
Okay, I only have one more, and that's Bill Duke's Deep Cover from 1992, which is on HBO Max, but only until the end of the month. So that's why I had to prioritize this one. I learned that it leaves at the end of January. I've been wanting to see this one for a while. Lawrence Fishburne gives an incredible performance in this. He plays a undercover cop named John Hall, who's working his way to the top of a drug ring, but he can't go to the very top because at the very top is a Latin American politician. So he's got to keep his eye just under the top, So he ends up getting involved with Jeff Goldblum, who's one of the lower rungs, and they kind of go into business together. And Goldblum also gives great performance. He's doing his kind of like goofy self type thing that he does. And it's just really great in the way that Bill Duke kind of like blurs the line between, cop and criminal. Because Fishburne's backstory is like he never wanted to be, his dad was a drug addict and everything. And he never wanted to touch drugs or drink. And, he got into being a cop to, do good and all this. But here in this undercover assignment, he's having to do all the things that he swore that he wouldn't do in his life and essentially took the job in order, to help solve these problems. So it's one of those things that really highlights like the naivete of everyone involved in the war on drugs that exists below that power line, where essentially they're just expendable pieces in this kind of like funny game for those in power. And it's phenomenal. This is such a great movie. It's got an incredible early 90s soundtrack where you got that kind of like hip hop using kind of like pre-industrial music sounds.
Oh yeah, I know exactly.
Yeah,
I know exactly what you're talking about.
It's got that throughout. And some of the dialogue is kind of comes across as like rap lyrics too at times, not always, just occasionally in certain aspects. And it's just like everything that's going on in this is it's great stuff. And I can't believe I haven't seen it until now.
Well, I've never seen it either, so I'm definitely going to have to watch it before it leaves HBO Max.
It's so good. It is so good.
Yeah, I'll make a point to check that out this week. All right. Let's see what we have in theaters. There's only one, Redeeming Love.
What?
Yeah, Redeeming Love. It's the highly anticipated film based on the best-selling novel. So
really,
yeah, you weren't anticipating that wasn't on your list. Redeeming Love wasn't on your 2022 list.
A retelling of the biblical book of Isaiah setting against the backdrop of the California gold rush of 1850.
Sounds like a classic in the making there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Well, let's see if VOD is gonna be better for us this week. On the 18th, we have Jack in the Box Awakening. This is the highly anticipated sequel to Jack in the Box.
Mm-hmm.
So, Lawrence Fowler returns with his second installment of the heart-stopping horror.
Man, so much anticipation.
Yeah, that was on my list.
Weekend.
Yeah. We also have Ditched. This is another horror movie from the looks of it. Desperate to escape an overturned ambulance, a group of paramedics are trapped with violent prisoners.
Oh boy.
Yeah, so I don't know if that's a horror or a thriller or what it is. Let's see, we have Nocturna, sides A and B, so it's like a twofer.
Okay.
So Nocturna side A is The Great Old Man's Night, and then side B is Where Elephants Go to Die.
Huh.
So what this is it's the same story, but like told in a different way. So it's the same director, and it's like the same thing, but like one is kind of more conventional, one's like more surreal or something.
Yeah.
I was thinking, I don't know if this movie is what this is, but I was thinking about like that concept where you have two movies that are just it's the same movie, but it's just from a different perspective. And like I was thinking like that might be a cool idea for a movie. Or two movies.
They did that with what was that? Oh god. Disappearance of, was it Eleanor Rigby? Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Him and Her.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's an interesting idea if you can pull it off.
Yeah. I was thinking so this is like about follows a nearly 100-year-old man who on his final night on Earth fights for redemption from his life's misdeeds.
Oh no.
So I was thinking like it might be a cool idea for like in the side A to have it just be like a conventional thing, and then on B it's like it's from his point of view, so like it's him suffering from like dementia or whatever, so things are like more surreal and stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe that's what it is, but we also have Road to Perth on the 18th, and then on the 21st we have Munich, Edge of War. That's going to be on Netflix. We have a War Hunt. We have The Laureate. We have A Shot Through the Wall, crime thriller about a cop who kills an innocent person, I believe.
Mm.
We got Stop Zemlia. Stop Zemlia. Okay, looks like maybe a coming-of-age story. We got A Hero. That's going to be on Amazon Prime. And it looks like that's about it for VOD. On Blu-ray this week, we got Last Night in Soho. That's going to be on regular and 4K. I was a little disappointed with that one. We have Candyman 3 Day of the Dead coming out on the Vestron Collectors series. I really like these Vestron Collectors series. Now, Candyman 3 Day of the Dead is not a good movie, but who knows? Maybe there's like some really cool bonus features or something on there. Titan is coming out. Highly recommend that. That was on my top 10 for 2021. We got Shock from 1977, and it looks like this might be a double pack. It looks like it. Yeah, it includes. Wait. Is this the same movie? I can't tell. Yeah, it looks like it's two movies. There's is it Beyond the Door 2? Oh, so it looks like it contains Shock. It says Shock / Beyond the Door 2. So I'm trying to see if like it's the same title. Like if it says Mario Bava and Lamberto Bava.
Yeah, because it was. No, it had two different names. I remember when we did this because in the United States it was released under the title Beyond the Door 2.
Yeah, I couldn't remember if this was anyway. Requiem for a Dream is coming out in 4K. I was just thinking about Darren Aronofsky the other day. Like, what happened to him?
Well, he did. He's got a new movie coming out.
Does he?
The Whale, right? And I think it has what's his name, Brendan Fraser.
Nice.
Yep.
2022, the year of Fraser, coming back.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We got Red Angel from 1966. This is going to be on Arrow also. Got The Addams Family 2. That's the animated one that came out last year. Let's see. What is this? The Sexy Box? The Sexy Box. Oh, this is a Trauma box set. So there's 3 Trauma comedies here. Waitress, Stuck on You, and The First Turn On. I saw Stuck on You. That's a pretty good 80s cheesy sex comedy. We got The Blockhouse from 1973. The Brute from 1977. Let me see what series this is. This is the Indicator series. Limited edition.
Old Indicator.
Yeah, I'm not really familiar with that. They're British distributor Indicator / Powerhouse Films. Let's see. We have Escape from Mogadishu, The Last Son, The Game's Called Murder, VHS Massacre 2. That's also a Trauma release. I feel like we haven't seen a lot from Trauma recently, but all of a sudden, here we go. Trauma back at it. Another one of these Indicator releases, Girl Stroke Boy from 1971. The Stendhal Syndrome is coming out. This is a Blue Underground limited edition. If you haven't seen that, highly recommend The Stendhal Syndrome. It's pretty much it. What about Criterion's this week?
We got 2. We have Richard Lester's A Hard Day's Night. The Beatles, you know? Get your Beatles
I'm
fix.
familiar with them. Yeah.
Yep. And then Garrett Bradley's Time from 2020, which I highly recommend.
Well, there you go. Ooh, there's one called Tokyo Decadence that's also coming out. NC-17. Looks like an erotic thriller from 1992. Nice. All right, I think that's going to do it for this week. Thank you so much for listening. You can send us your questions and topics to podcast@filmpulse.net. You can follow us on Twitter @FilmPulseNet and @FilmPulseKevin. And if you have a minute, consider reviewing us on iTunes. That would be extremely helpful. For Kevin Rakestraw, my name's Adam Patterson. We'll see you next week.